Hello guys and welcome back to Dark Horse FM. Earlier this week we did look at how to sign Wonderkids in Football Manager 2022, how you can snatch those young talents before the big teams get their hands on them. But in today's video we're going to be looking at, in a scenario where you actually have those young talents in your team, in and around your squad, how can you get the best out of them? How can you improve them to reach their potential? How can you train those players and have them develop at the highest possible potential rate that they can develop to get to their best potential? That's a very long introduction, right? So if you're new to the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button to get notified when new videos come up, and then straight into it. I'm currently in my Budapest Honvéd save, the year 2024, so I do have some good youth intake and also signed some young players from other countries that were actually looking like potential wonder kids. So we're looking at my development center right now, and this is the under 19 squad list according to the development center. So you can see some of these other players. Some of them have their arrows going up, and then Mateja Gasic, his one is just fluctuating up and down. So I'm going to look at, the first thing that we're going to look at is how to make them develop. The first thing you're going to look at is how to ensure that your players in your under 19 or in your B team can get good match ratings. You can do this by actually loaning them out to other clubs, or you can have them play in the B team or in the under 19 team. Let's say the under 19 has a league, or you encourage or you schedule friendlies for the under 19 team and then have those players play in those games full time. An important part of having them play in those games is that you need them to have good match ratings. In order to ensure that they will have good match ratings in those games that they play, you need to make sure that you have a good band of wonder kids or a good set of under 19 players in your under 19 squad. So when they eventually come up against teams in their own level, they can end up winning those games. This is the current setup from my under 19 team. That's Budapest Honvéd Football Club under 19s. These are most of the matches that we've played, so this ensures that most of my under 19 teams, my 19 players actually get good match ratings after winning most of the matches that they play, most of the matches that they feature in. So as long as they win those games, as long as they participate in those games and then they play well, they get good match ratings, as you can see here. And that ensures that once the game is done, it's going to aggregate everything that they perform that day with the good ratings that they have and increase their attributes step by step in a steady process. Unlike my Budapest B team, I don't think they did that well. Looking at their, looking at their fixtures on my Budapest B team, well, they did have some good wins. Even I think friendlies count. I can't really remember, but they play a lot of friendlies, and then they do win some. They do win some other friendlies, and some of them they are actually just playing draws. And hopefully when my under 19 players actually get into the Budapest B team, we're going to get better results. But like I mentioned, the first thing you need to note is to actually make sure your players get good match ratings, and in order for them to get good match ratings, you need to have a good number of under 19 players in your squad. So looking at the under 19 squad, most of my players, you can see this is their current ability, so not really the point. Potential ability, you need to have a good band of potential wonder kids in the squad, and the more you have these players in your team, the more likely that you win those games you come up against your opposition. So the idea is to have a good under 19 squad, slightly better than the other under 19 teams around your league. As I mentioned earlier in the video, one other method you could use aside from getting them to play and have good match ratings is to loan them out to other teams that are somewhere in and around your division. But in this case, it's going to have a lot to do with the player's adaptability, and that's a hidden attribute as well. But the point is to go into development, the transfer tab, and then add those players that you want, that you think they're too good to be in the under 19, but they are just not good enough yet to be in your first team, or you have a better player in your first team compared to them. If you don't want to sub them in once in a while, you can loan them out to another side and then add them to development list, and then make sure that they are playing consistently in those leagues. And then when you add the player to development list, you have the option to actually choose where you want the player to go, or the nature of the team that you want the player to go, and this kind of affects their development as well, because you want the training facility of that team to be at least good. Average, well, I think you can get away with average for much smaller teams, but I prefer to use good. Great, excellent, superb, and state of the art are also good as well, but just have a good or average training facility, because it matters a lot if the player is actually training up to scratch and having good training sessions week in, week out. And then you can also, the money aspect may not be really important for some people. For me, if I'm using a team like Budapest Honvéd, and then making a little extra money is still good for us. So you can actually fill in the unused wage percentage and then player wage percentage, and then see how many percent you want to take off their contract. But the main point here is to send them out on loan to teams that have good training facilities and then ensure that they're going to play in most matches. What I also do is allow them play against me. So there's some people, when they're actually sending their players on loan, they don't want them to feature, so you don't want a player to play against you. But for me, it doesn't matter. They can play against my team. They can play in cup matches. They can have as much game time as they want, because that's what is important for them to improve as they grow older. While you've looked at the team's reputation that you're going to send them to and then the training facilities of those teams, it's good to send them to teams that actually have good reputation. By the way, it also affects how quickly they're going to improve. But another thing you're going to want to negotiate for your youth player that you're sending out on loan is to actually negotiate the playing time for those players. So you can, if it is a really small club, you can ask them to play as a star player, then force the other manager to always put your player up front first and have him play in most matches. But then regular and important starter is also something that can work out very well for your young players, and they're going to get a lot of game time and then improve their match ratings and, develop. Now that we've been through the external or general form of developing those players, we can go into their personal development for real now, and that has a lot to do with training as well. When you're trying to develop your under 19 players, training sometimes can be handled by the assistant manager, the head of youth development, the under 19s manager, the 19th assistant manager. Anybody could have been assigned to that. But in case you want to take over and be more hands-on, I'm not really a hands-on under 19s training manager, but I think to get the best out of them, you might want to be hands-on. It's also possible that if you go hands-on, you can just mess up with their development. So I kind of leave that and then tell the under 19 and head of youth development how I want that player to develop, and then they'll go ahead and do that. But you can go into the team's responsibilities as usual. This is where everything goes, and then you can change and then take control of this. I'm going to leave it as it is and then leave it to the head of youth development, because this is the method that I normally use to improve those players. With the under 19, you can just go into the squads here in the development center and then go into under 19 and then run into training. And then once you get into training, once you get into training, you can then see the training list, and then you can go ahead and tweak this as you want. And looking at Gabor Case, he is developing flatline for somehow. So I'm just going to look for somebody that is, let's say Gasic, for example, Mateja Gasic. Remember him, he has 5-star potential rating. And then you can look at his development, and then looking at Gasic's attributes, I would want him to play as a ball playing defender. He has passing of 10, that can improve. He has marking as well. Vision, not so great, so we might have to work on that as well. And then you can then click on Gasic, or probably not, and then you can see that he's already set to central defender on defense. So I can just move this and then click on that, go into central defender, and then select ball playing defender on defend. And once you do that, you're going to get a notification that the assistant manager or the under 19th manager, anybody of that nature, is in control of this training. So what you're going to do is to take control of this training for the next month. I always suggest that you do it just for 1 month to see how the player improves. Don't take over it completely, because you might forget that you've actually taken over this player's training and then you abandon him. So just do it for 1 month and then watch how the player develops. So I want Mateja Gasic to improve as a ball playing defender. Remember, I need his vision to do well, so I can go into his, look for an attribute that actually allows him to improve his vision. Passing is one attribute that he needs to work on anyway, so I can just go into passing and ask him to improve on his passing, and then just observe his behavior throughout. And then with all your 5-star potential wonder kids that you have, you want to look at the attributes and see where they are probably faltering. I'm going to look for somebody that is 5-star. Let's look at Attila Pap, he is 3. Daniel Horvath, also 3. Okay, let's say Horvath, for example. He has passing, player position, he plays as a wide player, and a wide player with a good right foot, so he's more like an inverted winger. So you're looking at, with his development, you can just go into the same, let's say you're clicking on the player's profile, you go into the development tab and then go into training. Once you're in training, then eventually if it clicks, once you're in training, you can actually swap this. He's already set to inverted winger, that means I've had my eye on him already. Inverted winger, let's say we swap that to support, you're going to get the notification again, and then all you have to do is just, yes, let the player for 1 month, and then looking at all the attributes that he has, you can see where he is struggling. Balance is not so great, so agility and balance is something you might want to work on. His stamina as well and strength are not that great, so you can look for additional focus and then add more physical training like endurance, and you can see stamina and work rates are going to be worked on, so you can look to improve that part of his game. The important aspect here is to Have your player train position, role, and duty is actually very important. It helps them improve on certain attributes that you think that they are lacking, and for players that are much younger players, you can have them improve rapidly. And while you're here, something that wouldn't really take too much of your time is to look below and then see the players' weak foot training. I think most of my players always, as much as I just click their attributes and go into their training, the first thing I always check for is weak foot training. So you can just below here and just click start developing weaker foot. Most of the players that are bad on their weak foot should start improving their weaker foot, and when they're younger, the sooner they get used to using their weaker foot, the more they're going to be two-footed. The older they get, before they're 23, 24, they're going to have both feet green. By both feet green, I mean this left foot is not going to be weak, and his right foot, you can see, is already very strong. He's going to look something like this, where his left foot is somewhat reasonable and then the right foot is strong. In some extent, you're going to see players that have left foot fairly strong and is slightly greener, and then their right foot very strong. That's what I mean by very green. Another aspect of player development you're going to want to look to is the mentoring and motivational aspect of it. So the idea behind motivation, before we go into mentoring, the idea behind motivation is that you're going to check how good your players do week in, week out, and most of the time your assistant manager is going to send you reports of how well these players did in training. I encourage you to actually praise those players, praise their conduct, praise their training development, remind them that they're doing so well, pat them on the back, anything that you can do. And also, if they are not doing that well in game, if they're not doing that well in training, you can also go and warn their player, criticize their conduct, criticize their training level. It's going to motivate them to do better. If you go into the team's individual training, where we are training, individual training, you'd see, just filter the list by detail, individual training by detail, and then you're going to see all your players with their position and then with their training rating that they had after training. What you're going to do is, with the players that have, let's say 7.2 or 7, I'm probably going to say green and upwards. What I like to do is green and upwards. Everybody has their own attributes, probably 7.5 or 7.4, and then those players, they kind of like praise them, and then even players within 7.10, 7.25, they kind of criticize them for that training sessions. But players between 7.25, you can do this with your under 19 teams as well. Players from 7.25, 7.1 and above, I tend to praise those players for their behaviors, and then thanks, I've been working so hard. And then those players that are not doing so well, you can see them all the way down here, 6.15, 6.2. You kind of remind them, and the problem with this is that they're going to be the slightly older players, right? Like Dusan Pantelic here. But then you have Michal Petkovic, and he has 6.15, and that's not very good. So we're going to go into him and then criticize his training levels, and I tell him that he's been very, very disappointed with his training so far. And then he's going to get good morale. Morale actually helps players develop, by the way. And then he's going to be reminded that he's not doing well, and then he can improve with his training, and then you're going to see very good results in training. And when they have good results in training, they can get good match ratings when in the upcoming games. And with those good match ratings, it can actually help them develop very well as young players. Now, the last part, before I forget, is the mentoring groups. This is by far sometimes one of the most important aspects of player development, young player development. The issue with mentoring is you're going to need to, or sometimes you might struggle to find those players that can be of good influence to your younger players. If you think about mentoring, there's probably an entire video behind mentoring, and that's probably something we're going to look to another day. It's going to make this video very long if we're to go into mentorship in detail. But the rule of thumb is have one very influential player and then have two other players in the mentoring group, in each mentoring group. That way the influential player can rub off on the other two players. Or you can have two influential players. This isn't a very good, I mean, we have two leaders here and then one influential player, so this looks like a group that should be disbanded. But my point is, have one very influential player and then you have a slightly higher influential player here and then one other player. So this looks like a good setup. Another good setup here is a highly influential player and two other players, so this player can actually influence the other two players and then they're going to get better. If those players, the other players, have bad mentalities or bad player personalities, the players that are highly influential can actually rub off on them and then help them do better. The good thing about having mentorship as a tool for developing young players is that the older players you have in your team, those players that are highly influential, this probably should be paired with dynamics. Let's just run into team dynamics real quick and then look at the hierarchy of the squad. Looking at the hierarchy of the squad, you can see the team leaders in the team, the highly influential players, and then the influential players, and then other players. Ideally, with mentorship, you want to pair the highly influential players, the team leaders, play people with the armband, you want to pair these players here with these players that are other, and sometimes throw into the mix the semi-influential players in the team. That way, if there's anybody here that has any bad attributes or needs to learn something about their passing, good passing rate, even player preferred moves can be taught from mentorship groups. That way you didn't even have to do anything by yourself. The player just learned how to try killer balls just by being around a highly influential player that tries killer balls. So while we're here, I'm going to take it as an example and try to alter mentorship group 3. So we have Norbert Balov here, a highly influential player. He is a forward as well. And then Laszlo Koronshai. He is also a forward in my team, and there's one is a 28-year-old, the other is a 17-year-old. So how we're going to try and fix it, we're going to add one extra player into that mentorship group to make them 3, or if possible we're going to add 2 players, and they're going to be attacking players, because with the mentorship you can't attach or I don't know if it's impossible, because everything is possible, but you should try to attach an attacking player with an attacking player. So adding in the mentorship group 3, for example, these are forwards, Norbert Balov and Laszlo Koronshai. They are forwards. Koronshai is one of my Wonderkids as well. He's already paired with Norbert Balov. Now I need to add, he's a forward, and then he's going to be learning the art of being a striker from Norbert Balov, a more experienced player in the role. So we're going to go into the add player here and then look for another forward that we can add. And clearly I can see that is a problem to actually find somebody that can be a, let's say, another forward that can complete this mentorship group. So the idea would be to try and disband this group, or then move somebody else from another mentorship group and drop them in here. Now I'm just spreading my eye on all the other mentorship groups. I can see who and who I want to leave. And then Damir Redzik is a forward in my team. I know that he's a forward, but he's also a wide player. So if you look at his position, it's probably why they did not attach him to the same group with Norbert Balov, because he's also considered to be a very good wide player. So I'm going to take him out of mentorship group 5. And then we're going to attach him to mentorship group 3. And you can see in mentorship group 3, Damir Radzik. Just click on him and then add him there, and then we have everybody that we need to be in this attacking group. Then for mentorship group 5, we can see that Srdan Kosic is a very good wide player, just like Radzik, and it's why they actually paired Radzik into this. Then Noel Karensek is also a very good central midfielder as well. He can also play on the right, but there's a Mezzala style to his style of play, so that's why they're also paired in the same group. We're going to find a central midfielder, searching for a replacement midfielder to complete mentorship group 5, and then we can see Yanis Karabelov. The issue with Karabelov now is he is a more defensive midfielder, kind of ball-winning midfielder, and that's the same with all these other players as well. But we're going to throw him in there just to complete the group and then see how well everybody is doing. So now that all the mentorship groups are complete, we can call that a wrap on the video as a whole. So if you actually found this video useful, remember to leave a like on it, and also to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when new videos come up like this. And I'll continue to test tactics for you guys and share very helpful football manager tips. I'll catch you guys in the next video.